Welcome to today's webinar, which is Beyond Our Borders, Lessons from the International Laundromat Market. My name is Bob Neiman. I'm the editor of Planet Laundry Magazine, and I will serve as your moderator today. Each month, we like to focus on a topic that was featured in Planet Laundry Magazine, and today's topic appeared in the May issue. It's actually the cover story for the May issue of the magazine, and this is a chance to kind of go a little bit deeper into that subject matter. So I'm going to begin by asking our panel some questions on that topic, and then at the end we'll take your questions as well. So please, during any time during this program, feel free to type your question in to the question box. I think it's on the right side of your screen. And again, at the end we'll take as many as we have time for. So let's meet our panelists. We have with us today Jason Fleck of Laundromats and Mike Hand of Alliance Laundry Systems. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Right, especially on a Friday afternoon, because you've got nothing better to do than this. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Mike, I think I'm going to pick on you first because I see you up on top and you're the first one I see. So I guess I want to talk about design and layout of laundromats. And notably, what are some of the maybe obvious differences between some laundromats that are outside of our borders, some international stores? What are some design differences that you see?
I think the biggest, and thanks for throwing me the softball, because this might be the easiest question for both of us here to answer. I think the biggest difference, Bob, is the size of the laundries in other countries versus back here in the U.S. You know, when you look at the average size laundry here, what's it, 2,400 square feet versus in other countries, you might see a total of 12 to 14 pockets. So in all, that's probably the biggest difference, the main difference that you see there. You know, they're all clean, safe, and friendly, but they're smaller in capacity than what we're used to here in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, that was a softball. Jason,
Absolutely.
do you want to add something to that, or maybe talk about a design as far as maybe not just size, but are there design issues or things like that?
No, I think Mike summed it up pretty good. I would just say that they tend to be more compact. They're space efficient. They have to be. Sometimes they combine like laundry with other services like cafes or internet lounges. That's probably more common overseas, Europe especially. So,
right.
But
Right. Perfect. Well, Jason, let me stay with you. How about cultural norms and just customs in separate countries? How do they influence the operation and the way laundromats run and the way they're used? Just cultural norms. And again, I realize this is a huge topic, and you know, we're going to have to speak in generalities. But
for sure,
any thoughts on that?
Probably like you guys have traveled a little bit, and when I do, I try to stick my head in laundries a lot, and it's almost like a passion of mine when I do travel to kind of see what's different. For instance, like in Japan, there's an emphasis on cleanliness and orderliness, and it's quieter, the environment. And while in some European countries, like laundromats are more community hubs and tend to be a little busier, noisier. I know a few years ago, I did a stint in Guatemala working as a missionary, and I had to get my laundry done. And the town I was staying in was called Panajachel. And I walked down this like dirt road and through this intersection. And there's like one intersection in town where they can't even afford a traffic light. They'd actually have a guy there directing traffic all day long.
Oh, no.
Because labor is so cheap.
Yeah.
And so I walk in the laundromat, I got all this dirty laundry, and there's these three ladies standing there and two top loaders that are like home machines with no coin meter on them. And I just hand them the laundry and come back in a day and it's all folded up and ready to go, because labor is so cheap there that coin operated equipment just didn't make sense. And so that's like a third world example, I guess. And but other than that, I mean, I think those are my two examples anyway.
Mike, how about you? Do you have anything as far as that goes?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I can see is you know, and I'll speak from a European perspective. You know, it's new to the European market, right? 95% of the Europeans have never had a self-service laundry. Most of them did their laundry in home. So it was like it's been a big shift. It's a huge business opportunity for Alliance in general, when you look at the licensed stores, because they never had it. They've always just used the self-service laundry when there was one, when there was something wrong with their piece at home. So I think and one of the biggest things that I see, most of the folks that are in the laundry doing the laundry, I'd say that 60% or maybe even a little more of the clients are generally men versus where you'll see in the US, the majority of our clients are women who are going to do the laundry for the household. It's a little different in the European market.
Very interesting. Okay. It's kind of flipped.
Yep.
180. Interesting. Okay. Um, Mike, what can laundry owners learn from international operators as far as maybe some amenities or services? Are there any distinct amenities or services that they may be offering that is just not here in the US?
Well, I think we're getting there, right? We have, and I'd say the biggest difference is the auto dosing of detergents into the detergent and softener into the laundries, where here in the US, the majority of the laundromats, they require the customer to bring in their own. Some have put some, dosing into larger machines, or they're doing it on a trial basis, where if you look at in Europe, all of our Speed Queen license stores, it's auto dosing. So, it's a package. You're paying for not only the use of the washer, but you get your soap and softener as well with it. And that's probably the biggest thing I've seen. Jason, he hit on the hygiene piece. Hygiene's a big thing in other countries, but the auto dosing is something that you see more of than not of. And I'd say that's another shift here, where we're mainly you bring your own, and some may have it, but the auto dosing is probably the biggest thing to focus on.
Right, and that's kind of the norm in certain countries.
Yep,
at this point.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Jason, how about you? Are any amenities that you've seen overseas or just in other countries that maybe U.S. operators can pick up on?
Maybe not as prevalent as auto dosing, as
Yeah.
Mike mentioned. That's a good one, but automated folding machines, maybe some laundry pickup and delivery services, which are obviously a hot thing here too now, but I think they're a little ahead of us there because of limitations of parking and things that tended to be like the natural order of things. It took over, and a lot of environmentally conscious features like water recycling systems you might find in some countries, solar powered machines. I actually did solar powered laundry in Louisiana, so only one in my whole career. So I would say it's not very common here in the United States, but in Europe you may find a lot more of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you bring up a good point of the environment and maybe constraints on resources such as water and energy and things like that. And Jason, if you want to hang on to that and talk a little bit about that, as far as how have operations need to work around things like that in certain countries?
Well, I mean, obviously,
How do they adapt, I guess?
laundromats overseas, they're using more soft mounts, high efficiency soft mounts. They're a little ahead of the curve on some of that, and soft mount machines have technologies that enable them to comply with environmental regulations. It's just they're a little more sustainable. I've often stated that, like I said, Europe is slightly ahead of the US, but in time we'll see the US kind of adapt to these trends, and we've seen things like mobile payment, which is already pretty prevalent overseas. It's taking off here in the States. In the last 5 years, it's had huge gains. So that's my answer.
Okay. Mike, how about you as far as resources and maybe environmental constraints that
Well,
you've seen?
I'll touch again on what Jason said earlier, as hygiene becomes, and one thing that we've learned with the pandemic coming out of it is a lot of laundries, a large number of laundries in, Italy, France, the Netherlands, Scotland, they are using ozone systems to ozonize their water. That way they can cut out the hot water. They're washing in cold water, just basically allowing their laundries to be, more environment conscious of not heating the water and, just continuously heating and heating and heating. So The biggest thing that I can see that we've found is ozone is really relevant there. While it is relevant here, but it's still on a smaller scale, like Jason said. They're just they're ahead of the times when it comes to the some of the ozone and third-party payment systems and things like that.
Right, right. It seems like they've almost had to be ahead of the curve just based on their resources.
Yep.
They've been forced to do that, and the US is kind of catching up a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what are some technological advancements or innovations that you've seen? And again, maybe we've kind of already talked about that, but is there anything that laundromats overseas are differentiating themselves in any way, technologically?
Yeah, ideally, I think we just covered it, right? I mean,
Okay.
it's higher G-force, less water, ozone, touchless payments. They're doing all the things that we're doing here. They just do it on a more broader scale.
Right.
Yeah.
Jason, how about you? Do you have anything to add to that regarding technological advancements overseas?
I would just say the mobile payment solutions is probably a bigger deal there because there's more like foreign currencies floating around. So you have, maybe some issues there where everybody understands mobile payments. Everybody's got it built into their phone. It's caught on here. I mean, like I said, in the last, 5 years, especially, we've seen a lot more stores that don't want to take just coin. I think coin is in the United States something like 56% just coin. So we're still in a minority here taking anything but coin, but it's getting better. And in Europe, I'd expect that to be a lot lower of a number.
Right. A lot less coin in Europe. How about in like Latin American countries or Australia? Can you guys speak to the technology there, or are we strictly sticking to Europe? Again, I know this is a huge topic and I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I think, Latin America, there's still, the laundromat is still something that's it isn't as relevant in Latin America at this time. I think it's adapting, it's taken off, but for the most part, I think, we it's payments, it's efficiency, it's people not taking advantage of all the opportunities here that they do take all advantage of all the opportunities in other countries. They're constantly looking for ways to grow their business because they are smaller scale. So it's the clean, safe, friendly. I think it's something that transpires throughout the organization or the industry as a whole, whether you're in the US or another country. They're looking for that clean, safe, friendly environment. Get in and get out.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
We've talked about payment methods. How about pricing and pricing structures that you've seen outside of the US? What are price structures? Are they a little bit higher, lower? Again, I don't know. What, Jason?
I think that's okay. I think you might see some more like subscription models catching on in some of those countries where it's like when you go down to the car wash now, you buy like a monthly fee and you get as many car washes as you want. But in general, I mean, utilities are more expensive in general overseas, and so they're really focused on probably higher vends in a lot of cases in developed countries, especially in underdeveloped countries. You're going to have a lot of cash-based technology, right? And it's going to be lower vends. So, but obviously, the United States, the majority of coin laundromats are pretty straightforward in how they do pricing versus what you might see in Europe.
When you talk about subscription models, how do they structure those? Can you go through that a little bit, or what have you seen?
Yeah, I'm probably not the foremost expert on it. I just know of it. I don't live there enough to take advantage of it. So I would say say it's probably a lot like what you found at the car wash, though, where for $39.99 a month you can get as many washes. You look at the average spend of a family in a month in laundry, you could do the math and figure out what that subscription needs to be, I think.
Right. I just want to remind everybody that you can certainly ask questions, type them into the question box, and we'll get as many answered as we can. And we've got the two experts here, so now's the time to get your questions answered. So, but moving along, I think that one of you brought up just the whole sense of community and social interactions at laundromats. They're kind of a community hub in certain parts of the world, aren't they? Mike.
Yeah, I mean, you think about
Yeah.
the better laundries, you want to give back to the community that you service, right? You need the community to be successful. So the more that you can provide and do for the community, if you have the Wi-Fi, there may be instances where that's the only Wi-Fi that's available to the people that come to do it. So they're in there taking advantage, they're paying for the service, but they're also using the Wi-Fi. They interact. There's coffee shops that are in some of these. So it is a social platform as well. And it's more social activity in some places than it is in others. Just like in the US, some people go to a laundromat to socialize with the same people. They plan a laundry day and they may catch up with friends. And I think that's probably something that you see when you have it next to a coffee shop or something that is in their day to day more than here in the US where look, laundry is a necessity. People have to do it, so they want to go in and get out, and they don't socialize as much here in the US as maybe they do in other parts of the country.
Right. In what parts of the world would you say that's most prevalent? Do you
I
have
would
any feel for that?
probably say it's Europe, right?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Jason, do you have anything to add to that one as far as just being a community hub? As far as the international source.
I think Mike's got it, pretty summarized well. I think I went to Ireland and stuck my head in a laundromat. It was next to a pub, and it was kind of like the pub was open to laundromat, and it was kind of people were in there watching soccer and or football, and they're having conversations, and their laundry's over here running. And I thought that's a neat thing. You don't see that very often in the United States. So they might have like a singles night at the laundromat where that's not very common here, or they might have I was in one store where every customer's birthday they take a picture and they put a Polaroid up on the wall. It's a little more of that kind of thing, I think, than what we tend to see here, where people sit in a chair, stare at their phone, or use the Wi-Fi. And there's not a lot of interaction going on in most laundries today. Not
right, more of that kind of a homey feel and a lot of personal interaction with other customers.
Some of that could be that we're dealing with smaller towns where the community is a little more close knit. Who knows? So,
are most stores attended or unattended?
I would say they're mostly unattended.
Okay. All right.
Because the smaller size of them, the cost of labor, it's something, they trust the people are going to come in, but the majority of the ones that I've been in are mainly unattended, Bob.
Okay. And they don't really have trouble with that as far as, I don't know, vandalism or theft or things like that, or?
I'm sure there's a bad apple in every bunch, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk a little bit about government regulations and policies and things like that as far as getting a business up and running and operating them. Is there a lot more red tape in certain areas than in others, and more so than in the US? For Jason, can you?
I mean, laundromat operations abroad might have stricter environmental regulations, labor laws that vary from our safety standards. I mean, there's a lot more regulation in a lot of these more developed countries than you might even find here in the United States, and it definitely affects how the businesses are managed and operated. But it would be very specific to the country in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike, have you run across anything like that in your travels?
I think the laundry business is a laundry business, right? Nobody wants landlords, right? Landlords say, I got a laundry. All they think is the laundry of the old, it attracts the bad people, the video games, the teenagers come in. As far as regulations go, in foreign countries, I think they have the same or some of the same regulations that we're going towards, like microplastics and things throughout the wash. But for the most part, I think laundry is laundry across the world. everybody is conscious of utilities, but I think it just goes back to how much do you want to invest into some of these laundries when it comes to the the cost of, we have tap fees and things here. I don't necessarily know that they are really that relevant. There may be some municipalities, like Jason said, that's got different standards, but in all, I don't think there's anything that stands out, Bob, when it comes to that. It's more of a conscious around the utility costs, and that's why you'll probably see the smaller laundries, the smaller footprint of a laundry in
Right.
other countries.
Right. How about economic factors and the local economic factors? How are they influencing maybe the affordability and the accessibility of laundromats in other countries? Jason, please.
I think Mike touched on labor. Labor costs vary greatly across developed countries and underdeveloped countries. So perhaps in underdeveloped countries, you're going to find a lot more of the Guatemala model I gave, where you walk in and they're going to hand you it and you don't have to touch it, and that's fine. And then more developed countries, you're going to find maybe a central pay system where you walk up, and since it's a bowling alley design, it's very easy to say I'm in machine 6, blah blah, and there we go.
Right.
So that's what I would say anyway.
I think that it goes back to time, right? The one thing that we have that's of most value to all of us as consumers or as human beings is our time, right? So what's the cost to do laundry at home versus what's the cost to do laundry outside of the home? And it goes back to time. You can get it done faster by taking it outside the home, and the time the wash dry, it's the throughput time, right? That's a big factor, and I think that's a factor that plays into the other countries as well. It's just allowing you to have more free time to spend with families and do things that way versus in the laundry room all day, in and out of the laundry room all day. You can just take it and get it done in a bulk and go on about your day.
Right. This one's for both of you. What are the biggest challenges to operating a laundry outside of the U.S.? And Mike, can you go first? I mean, do you have any? And again, I realize it's talking apples and oranges with different countries and different continents. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen?
I think it's providing a clean, safe environment. Hygiene's of high importance nowadays. Customer service is of high importance, and that's the biggest challenge. Do you provide a service that people want to come and pay for? And it doesn't matter if it's in the U.S. or abroad. That's what people are looking for. They're looking for the most bang for their buck. Can they get in and get out? And is it a clean, safe, friendly place to do their laundry?
Right. Jason, how about you?
That's a good answer. I would touch on real estate. I would touch on real estate because real estate is an issue here, but I think we're blessed that we have a lot of wide open space in a lot of places here. I think they're incorporating like older construction a lot in some countries. So to find the right real estate, be able to modify the building to support the equipment and make enough, get enough parking, get enough all that set aside. I think there's some unique challenges to Europe that you might find in an urban environment in the United States a little more often, like say, New York City or something like that, or Boston. But it's a little more common in those European countries that you're stuck between two buildings, and this building's like 300-400 years old, and it's probably got a subterranean basement, and there's a lot of challenges there in the real estate end, I would say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A last question for both of you, and it's what do you think U.S. operators can learn from operators in other countries? Jason, let me stay with you. What are some lessons? What's the takeaway?
I don't know. I often say, hey, they're ahead of us in a lot of ways, that this is where things are going for United States over time. More efficient equipment, better use of technology, and more methods to pay. I would say, you know, the proliferance of front load equipment. There's not a lot of top load equipment in Europe. There's still quite a bit of top load equipment in the United States, surprisingly. Although I think Mike and I would prefer to build stores without them these days. That, you know, they're out there. So, but other than that, just fostering maybe a community-centric atmosphere is something that we could learn from. We could do a lot more of that here in the United States. I think it'd be good for laundromats. I think it could separate you from the competition to be more in touch with the community.
Okay, and we're certainly seeing some of that here in the U.S., but again, it's not as far as it's gone overseas.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, Mike, how about you? What are your takeaways? What do you think the lesson that U.S. operators can take away and learn?
Yeah, I think it's efficiency, right? It's efficiency, time, stay relevant. Your laundry can be old, but it should be clean. You know, that's the most important thing. That's what people are looking for. Nobody wants to, you know, come into a laundry that is dirty. But you know, we're looking for it's customer service, customer satisfaction. And we do a good job of that. You know, it's not everywhere, you know, but there's a lot of great operators in the U.S., whether they own one store or 20 stores. Right. So in comparison, what can they learn? You know, how can you be more efficient? How can you spend less time as an operator in your store, whether it's a third-party payment system? What can you bolt onto your store that provides ROI for you as an owner? And I think there's you know, there's a lot of things that the Europeans can learn from us, or those abroad can learn from us, and there's a lot of things we could learn from them. But I think the laundry business is the theme of the laundry business is clean, safe, friendly, but it's stay relevant, Bob.
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I've learned a lot from both of you today. Is there anything I didn't ask? Or is there anything maybe that either of you would like to get out there about the international laundry market and where it's headed, and you know what?
I think Mike touched on it well, and in his summary, I had a great operator in South Florida once teach me that everybody who walks through the door, it's their least favorite day of the week. It's laundry day. And all we can do is really make them a little more comfortable. And that's our job really as store owners, as equipment designers, as somebody who lays out stores. We need to think about the customer first and work our way back from that.
Yeah, it's creating an experience, right? That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great place to leave it. I do have a couple of things I want to quickly share, some information on upcoming events for CLA. We've got the next two virtual events coming up are in June. We've got a panel discussion on breaking the barriers, effective networking for women in the laundry industry, and that's on June 4th. On June 20th is the next Planet Laundry webinar. That's going to be Clean and Green, Sustainability Practices for Today's Laundry Operations. The CLA's Connect Live program will have 3 events this summer in New Jersey, Ohio, and California. So if you're in those areas, it's a great chance to you know, meet with your peers face to face and swap war stories and just network. Those are great events. If you haven't done so already, please check out the CLA Facebook group. It's Laundromat Professionals Network. Again, great conversations there. A lot of people sharing just good information, and it's a great way to get ahead of the learning curve and get your questions answered. So Laundromat Professionals Network, it's the CLA Facebook group, so check that out. Hey, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much to Jason and Mike. Guys, thank you. I appreciate it very much. I learned a lot. Very interesting.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who participated. Yes, absolutely. See you next week.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day, and I hope you learned something.